Can you build muscle without protein? No, you can't. In fact, there are arguments made you can't even live without protein. It is one of the essential macronutrients. It's the hardest macronutrient to get. It is the most expensive and the least convenient way to get a macronutrient. Like when you're out and about, especially, you go to a corner store, it's not hard to find some carbs and fat. Protein, unless you're carrying around some chicken breast in your pocket, it's very hard to get a high protein diet or even an adequate protein diet. But fortunately, whey protein is here to help. And so because it is such a common supplement and they line the shelves of every supplement store, and it is for the newcomer and for the experienced athlete alike, it can be so hard to decide if any of them is better than anything else on the market. We have tried dozens and dozens and dozens of them to land on this list of the best whey proteins on the market. So stick around, we're gonna make you an expert. Now before I go on, I do need to make it clear that I'm not a doctor, not a medical professional. So if you are planning to make any big changes or any little changes to your dietary regimen, supplement regimen, exercise regimen, make sure you talk to a qualified medical professional to ensure that nothing is gonna conflict with like medications you may be taking or your individual history or just your individual personality type. With that said, let's get into our top pick. Now, of all the whey proteins on the market, our absolute favorite is Swolverine's Whey Isolate. We got a lot of reasons for it, but basically it's a nice stripped down product that doesn't give you anything you don't need and only has extra ingredients that might provide some benefit. It's got a lot of protein per calorie because they use whey isolate, which is very low in fat and carbohydrates. Plus it may digest more effectively as well due to some extra enzymes I've added in here. So I just said whey isolate though, and you might be wondering what is whey isolate and what are the other kinds of whey and what is whey protein in the first place? I'm gonna answer all these questions, then we're gonna jump back into the list. So to quickly answer some really frequently asked questions about these kinds of products, whey is one of the proteins in dairy, right? There's whey and casein. In the production process for cheese, you take the casein away from the whey. Casein gets used to make cheese. Whey, we used to throw it out until we realized it's a really, really good quality protein. It's actually the most bioavailable protein on earth, which means it absorbs the best out of any other protein you can find. There are three kinds of whey, generally speaking. The first is whey concentrate. That's the most basic form and has the most carbs and fat in it, but it's also the cheapest. You also got whey isolate after that, which has been processed in such a way that it removes most, if not all, of the carbs and lactose and sugar and fat. Then there's whey hydrolyzed, which has some enzymes added to it to break it down even further in such a way that it absorbs faster than any other whey protein. However, it does taste a bit more bitter, it is a lot more expensive, and those benefits, they're not really very applicable or practical for the average person. That kind of stuff is really only important if you're like an Olympic level athlete. Most folks are gonna do just fine with whey concentrate and whey isolate, and that's all they're gonna wanna pay for as well. When should you take whey protein is a question we get asked a lot as well. The answer is whenever you feel like it's just protein, right? So you can have it with any meal, you can have it as a side for any meal, you can have it before a workout, after a workout, in the middle of a workout. There used to be a very pervasive myth that there is a post-workout anabolic window during which, after workout, you have to sprint and consume some liquid protein as fast as humanly possible. That's not really the case. What actually matters the most at the end of the day is your total calories, your total protein, carbohydrates, and fat. When you eat stuff isn't very important, and how quickly after a workout you eat isn't super important either. It's the total package of calories and macronutrients that matters the most. That said, if you have an empty stomach before a workout, many people find that having some protein powder beforehand can be helpful at giving you some extra energy throughout a workout. Not because it's a stimulant, but because it provides some amino acids into your bloodstream and helps to retain muscle, and can just generally make you feel like you can last a little bit longer. But otherwise, timing isn't a massive deal with these sorts of shakes. With an empty stomach though, they can be pretty useful to help you get through a workout. The last question to quickly cover is how much whey protein to take. There's not really a maximum amount, but a lot of people think there's a minimum amount of in the area of 20 to 25 grams of protein. That's because there's an amino acid called leucine in whey protein that is closely associated with muscle protein synthesis. And there's evidence to suggest that you want to get a good 2.5, 3 grams or so in order to initiate muscle protein synthesis. We're getting a little bit complicated here, and muscle growth has a lot of other factors involved in it. But still, if you want to get, let's say, the most effective delivery of whey protein powder, you want to make sure you're getting a good 20 grams or so, just to make sure that you're stimulating muscle protein synthesis. All right, so let's get back to our list. The best overall whey protein is the whey isolate from Swolverine, which is also our favorite whey isolate because this is whey isolate. As I mentioned, whey isolate, it tends to be a lot friendlier on folks who are sensitive to lactose. This one here also though is totally free of a lot of components that some people try to avoid. We're not saying these are officially bad for you or should be avoided, But there's no denying that there are plenty of people on the market who try to avoid soy and gluten. There are neither of those in this product. And soy is actually extremely common because soy lecithin in a protein powder helps it to dissolve and mix up a bit more easily. There's nothing wrong with having a small amount of soy. People worry about estrogen in it. There's nowhere near enough to have any effect. Nonetheless, if you want to avoid it, there's none in here. As mentioned, this is very high in protein per calorie. There are very few extra carbohydrates and fat here. Half a gram of fat here on the chocolate milkshake flavor, 2 grams of carbohydrates, just 1 gram of sugar, and 26 grams of protein. That's a really impressive profile. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that this contains digestive enzymes, which is a really cool extra touch here. There is some data to suggest that when you take certain digestive enzymes with a protein powder, they'll find the amino acids in your bloodstream, they'll appear there more quickly than if the enzymes weren't there. In other words, when you add enzymes to your protein powder, it is quite possible that it's going to absorb faster and more effectively than if you hadn't. And that just means, you're getting more protein for the dollar. Everyone wants to absorb what they're paying for, right? So this has 10 milligrams of digestive enzymes, papain and protease. And yeah, proteases are the ones that help to break down protein. So that's why this is our favorite whey isolate and our favorite whey protein powder overall on the market. Side note, it's absolutely delicious. This one here is a chocolate milkshake flavor, and their honey cinnamon peanut butter flavor is going to change your life if that's the one you buy. Next up on our list, we wanted to talk about Huge Supplements Huge Whey. We're really big fans of this product. The cool thing about Huge Whey is it actually has a few ingredients added to it that might potentially make it a little bit more anabolic. So we're naming this one the best whey for muscle growth and also the best whey for men. Men tend to want to gain a bit of muscle in the gym. And also this is higher in calories than some of the other protein powders here. And generally, men, they tend to weigh more and they tend to require more calories in order to gain some muscle. So we call this one the best whey protein for men and for muscle gain. What's in it? This one is made with whey concentrate, which as I mentioned, has more carbohydrates and fat than a whey isolate. But if your goal is muscle gain, you are actually, and if you've tried to do it in real life, you'll know this, you're trying to get extra calories throughout the day. Getting really low calorie foods and supplements all the time isn't really conducive to the goals of gaining muscle. So this one, it's not crazy high in calories, but relative to everything else here, for a 23.5 grams serving of protein, there's 6 grams of carbohydrates and 3 grams of fat, as opposed to like the half a gram of fat and 2 grams of carbs you're getting in whey isolate. The 6 grams of carbohydrates here, the part of that comes from like lactose and from sugars, but also they've added in some dextrose here. There's an argument to be made that adding extra dextrose, that's gonna have a little bit more of an insulin spike, and insulin is generally considered an anabolic hormone. There are some other issues with spiking insulin, yes, but in a measured and controlled way and having it right after a workout, it's possible this could potentially help to increase absorption with that extra dextrose and that extra little insulin bump. There are 2 more things I wanted to mention on this ingredients list. Number 1, there is a little bit of digestive enzymes in here from papain, which you find in papaya, and that is a protease that can help with absorption. It's not as much as in Swolverine, but nonetheless, that could be a pretty cool addition. And there's also lactase, which is a digestive enzyme that is often added into products to help to minimize or reduce the digestive discomfort among those with lactose. Because this is whey concentrate, it does have lactose in it. Many people find that lactase helps to eliminate or reduce the discomfort from the lactose. Obviously, that depends on you, the degree of sensitivity and the conversation you have with your doctor. Nonetheless, it's a nice addition to a whey concentrate, and we always like to see it in whey concentrate-based products. Before I go on, I forgot to mention this earlier. I know I'm kind of talking a lot here, and if you want to take in this information at your own pace, we have a written article of this video that you can pretty easily check out. Just go over to Google and write in Barbend best whey protein powder, and this whole list is going to come right up. So if you want to check out some of the references, some of the science we're talking about here, or again, if you just want to be able to scroll around and land on whichever part of this content you want to land on, yeah, check out that article. All the info is in there. Let's get back to the list. Next up is the best tasting whey protein powder. We're going with Onnit for this one. Onnit's a really interesting fitness company. They don't just do supplements. They do a lot of like kettlebells and maces and really functional fitness related sort of apparel and supplements and products. Onnit's whey protein here, for one, it's grass-fed, which is interesting. That doesn't really have health benefits when this is a product that's so low in fat. However, it means the cows have been a little bit happier, right? This is also all natural, but shockingly, it is the best tasting protein powder. This one here is their vanilla flavor. We also really like their chocolate flavor. They call it Mexican chocolate. It's got a little bit of cinnamon in there, so it has a little bit more of a pop, a bit more of a zing than the average chocolate protein powder on the market. And we find that it's the one that's always going empty the quickest at the Barbend office. We're massive fans of the taste here. Another reason why the flavor is so good on this is there are 2 natural sweeteners in this. There's stevia leaf and monk fruit extract. And also they do make a sincere attempt to make it taste a bit more creamy despite the low fat content. So there's only 2 grams of fat in here, but they've found ways to put in MCT oils and sunflower oils and so on to help make it taste creamier than you would imagine for a whey isolate. And once again, this product is sourced, as you can see in big letters on the front, grass-fed cows. And that makes it our favorite sustainably sourced protein powder as well. Having grass-fed cows is not only like better for the cow's overall health and also for the fatty acid profile in their meat and their dairy, it also simply lowers the carbon footprint and tends to be better for the local environment as well. So that's not unusual for Onnit, which is a very kind of holistic approach to their fitness and to their supplements. You'll often find a lot of interesting plant extracts and natural flavorings, and they avoid a lot of kind of artificial approaches to fitness. So it makes sense that they would lean on grass-fed dairy from New Zealand, no less, for their whey protein isolate here. So they've got a really good philosophy behind the product, which also happens to be the tastiest on the market as well. Now let's transition into another grass-fed whey protein, which is actually our pick for the top spot because of their filtration and processes they use when creating it. So this one here is Xwerks. It's a pretty cool company. They really are shockingly low in carbohydrates and fat. This is completely fat-free, and it has just 1 gram of carbohydrate for 25 grams of protein, which is thoroughly impressive. They also get grass-fed dairy for this, and they get it from New Zealand as well, which is one of the strictest nations on earth when it comes to ensuring and maintaining dairy quality. So you can make absolutely certain there's no antibiotics or like weird hormones or pesticides or anything like that that wind up in the dairy. On top of that, what we liked about Xwerks is the way that they preserve a lot of interesting components of the whey during the processing of the product. So raw whey, it actually contains a lot of interesting ingredients. We're talking about like beta-lactoglobulin, glide macropeptide, immunoglobulins as well. That one I know about, that has links to improved immunity and so on. So a lot of folks like to tout whey actually as a good product to take if you're feeling under the weather because of these potential immunity boosting effects, and the microfiltration that they use when creating this whey protein product here helps to preserve these important biological nutrients and pass it on to the consumer. So for that reason, we named this the best grass-fed whey protein on the market because they work so hard to preserve the benefits that can accompany grass-fed whey. Next, we want to talk about the best whey protein for weight loss. For that, we often find ourselves recommending Kaged whey protein isolate. So this is an isolate as mentioned, which means it tends to keep the calories really low for the amount of protein you're getting. Consuming enough protein is a really important part of any weight loss protocol. To be clear, this is not a weight loss product and this is not weight loss advice. It's like a separately regulated area of the FDA. But nonetheless, when you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to consume fewer calories. And a lot of people find that consuming more protein when they're trying to lose weight helps to keep them full and helps them to retain more muscle mass, therefore losing more fat than when they're losing like muscle and fat at the same time, which can happen if you're not keeping an eye on your macronutrients. So with a whey protein isolate like this, you're getting more protein per calorie. This is 25 grams of protein per scoop, with 3 grams of carbohydrates, but 1 gram of fiber. So it's 2 grams of net carbohydrates and just half a gram of fat. So basically, because this is so protein dense, we found this whey isolate the best pick for weight loss, simply because it minimizes the other macronutrients to a really good degree and thereby can help you feel fuller on fewer calories. Next up, we're gonna take a bit of a right turn on this and talk about the best organic protein powder. A lot of people look for organic whey protein, but actually certified by the USDA is remarkably difficult to find. So in this, we're gonna mention one of our favorite brands, which is Transparent Labs, and their organic plant-based protein. So for folks looking for a really good organic protein powder, I would really recommend checking this one out. It's true that a lot of plant-based protein powders tend to be really high in carbohydrates and not actually that high in protein. But this one has managed to pull off 24 grams of protein per scoop with 3 grams of net carbohydrates and 2.5 grams of fat, which is comparable to what you're going to get in any whey protein powder. So I really strongly recommend it. If you're concerned about the amino acid profile of a plant-based protein, I would understand that. Whey has a really solid amino acid profile. It's very, very complete. Plant-based proteins tend not to be. But what they have very smartly done at Transparent Labs is combining rice and pea protein together. And so when you combine those, you get complementary amino acid profiles, and that makes for a complete protein that really absorbs very, very effectively and is very bioavailable. So there really is very little downside to getting this protein powder here. Plus, this is actually certified by the USDA as completely organic, which is going to put a lot of customers' worries to rest. So Transparent Labs is our favorite organic protein powder, but our favorite plant-based protein powder overall is going to be from Swolverine. The reason why this one stands out, it's not organic, so that's why we didn't give it that spot. However, it does have also a very similarly impressive macronutrient profile of 22 grams of protein per scoop with 3 grams of carbs and 2.5 grams of fat. And what we really like is they've added some extra nutrition here. So while Transparent Labs does have a really considerable amount of iron in it, this product also has a little bit more iron. In addition, it's got some niacin, some zinc, and some chromium and sodium, all at nice levels as well to provide some more complete nutrition to your diet. So really good protein per calorie for a plant-based protein. It's also naturally flavored as well with stevia and some Dutch cocoa natural flavors, that kind of thing. It's got a little bit of extra sodium in there to help with taste, but also hydration, because sodium is a really important component of that. And lastly, the protein, as opposed to being pea and rice, this is pea and pumpkin. So that's really interesting. And pumpkin protein seeds do have a very compelling amino acid profile as well. You don't need to worry about any missing amino acids with this product either. Next up is the best whey protein for bulking. We've got a meal replacement later on this list. It might be an interesting option, but for people who just want to get really dense protein, who want to make sure they're getting as much protein as they can for the calories, whether you are a bodybuilder or someone who's trying to gain as little fat as possible, or if you're someone who simply is trying to find a way to cram in the last 25 grams of protein in your already very high protein diet, we were really impressed with Transparent Labs whey protein isolate. This one here is grass-fed as well, which is always a nice bonus, but otherwise it's really a very simple stripped back formula. You're getting 28 grams of protein for just 1 gram of carbohydrates and no fat at all. It is very hard to beat that. This is basically a steamed chicken breast. And then you're gonna get grass-fed whey protein isolate in the ingredients with cocoa, natural flavor, sodium chloride, and stevia. That's it. So there's no artificial flavors or colors or sweeteners, which is pretty rare out there. And there are people, especially when they're trying to bulk and gain some muscle, they get concerned about absorption potentially being affected by artificial sweeteners. The jury's kind of out on that research. It seems unlikely that it's true, but nonetheless, if you wanna just like hedge your bets and make sure you're eating just a completely clean product, I would consider this a chicken breast in a cup, right? Like this is as pure protein as you're about to get. So that whey isolate from Transparent Labs is a great pick for bulking if you're really just after, like I said, like chicken breast in a cup, right? If what you're after is something that has a lot more calories in it, something that's going to help you kind of maybe save some labor when it comes to cramming all the calories into your day, we're gonna talk about that meal replacement that I mentioned, which is also from Transparent Labs. So this is the meal replacement powder from Transparent Labs, and has a nice 220 calories per serving. So you get one big scoop of 56.5 grams, and in this, you get 24 grams of protein, but you're also getting 19 grams of carbs with 5 grams of fiber and also 7 grams of fat. So this is a much more robust, it's gonna taste a bit better as well because they're not trying as hard as they possibly can to cut away every single other calorie that isn't protein. So a lot of people do prefer to take meal replacements for that reason, like they do tend to taste a bit better. But on top of that, it's also got some extra added macronutrients here as well. So you're getting 11% of your daily iron, 17% of your sodium, which remember is great for hydration in the sports nutrition context, and also 5% of your potassium as well. Believe it or not, the blend actually has some meat in it, well rather animal product that is not just whey. You got whey isolate and whey concentrate, yes, but also some bone broth and egg white protein and pea protein isolate. So that's gonna give you a whole lot of different amino acids. It does mean this is not vegetarian friendly if that's important to you. And there's also like several different forms of fiber in here, like oat bran fiber and carb 10 pea starch, which results in a pretty fiber heavy product here. You got 18% of the recommended intake of fiber per serving with a nice 5 grams. Nonetheless, you're getting a really good balance of different forms of protein, different sources of protein, which is often really important for people who are either looking to bulk or simply trying to have like the most complete approach to their nutrition as possible. Getting a good amount of carbohydrates too. So as long as you're not in an unbelievably low carb or low fat diet, this is a really filling and tasty way to get some extra protein in your diet. Next up, another question we get asked a lot is the best protein powder for women. Now, to be honest, there's not really a good reason to gender these sorts of products. But nonetheless, our female readers, they tend to gravitate toward the protein from Legion Plus. There are a couple of reasons for that. Number one is there's no fat here whatsoever. So if you're in a low fat diet, a low calorie diet, this is gonna fit really easily into that. Also, it's also natural, it's an all natural product. It also tends to be popular among our female readers. So this is naturally flavored and sweetened. It's also grass-fed dairy. These ones are from Ireland. But the main reason is the flavors aren't too weird. They've got a lot of really interesting, tasty flavors. It's not super common for a protein powder company, even a popular one, to have more than a few flavors. This one has 13 different flavors. So here you've got a really cool one, strawberry and banana, which we've tried before. Down here, we've got the cinnamon cereal, which we're big fans of. There's a mocha cappuccino, there's cookies and cream. There's all these more, dare I say, approachable flavors that sound to a lot of people a bit more fun to eat, or to consume rather, than just your straight regular chocolate and vanilla. I'm a big fan of vanilla myself. I'm not against companies that just have vanilla and chocolate, but certainly we find that our female readers, they are more interested in a company that has a wider variety of flavors like this one, but you know, so am I. The last protein powder we're gonna put on this list is Dymatize's ISO 100 for the best hydrolyzed whey protein powder product. Earlier, you might remember me talking about hydrolyzed whey protein, saying that it absorbs more quickly than other forms of whey protein, but is typically prohibitively expensive and not very tasty. What Dymatize has done is produced a very cost-effective product. That's because they combine hydrolyzed whey and whey isolate, so that saves them a bit of money. But hydrolyzed whey is still the #1 ingredient on the ingredients list. It is more hydrolyzed whey than whey isolate. So this is still definitely a solid hydrolyzed whey product. It's pretty cost-effective as well, at just $1.40 per scoop. This has also been certified by Informed Choice, which means it's been tested for banned substances. So that's gonna be good news if you're a competitive athlete, especially because it's competitive athletes who are the most likely to find benefit from hydrolyzed whey protein products. Finally, it tastes really good. There aren't that many protein powders out there that taste good with water, and I think ISO 100 has done a good job of it. They also have a cinnamon bun flavor or cinnamon roll flavor, which we've tried before, mixed with whole milk. It is to die for. They've done a pretty impressive thing at Dymatize by making a hydrolyzed whey product that doesn't break the bank and also tastes pretty darn good. So that does it for our list of the best whey protein powders and some non-whey protein powders as well. We have really gone through a lot of tubs at the Barban office landing on this list, and we're pretty confident in these picks. The way we land on these picks, by the way, there are a lot of areas to look at when analyzing a protein powder, but like the #1 has been protein per calorie, because that's a priority for a lot of folks. They want to avoid extra carbs and fat. But also the ingredients list themselves, like the form of whey. Again, whey isolate tends to have the best balance of protein per calorie and taste and affordability. Whey concentrate does tend to taste a little bit better, and we have no issue with that if like the customer doesn't mind that as well. So it's really up to you as to what you're prioritizing, if it's protein per calorie, if it's flavor, and also additives and extra ingredients. The obvious one here is that there are a lot of natural flavored and naturally sweetened protein powders and a lot of artificially flavored and artificially sweetened ones. Candidly, the artificially flavored and sweetened ones tend to taste a bit better, like by and large, but of course, plenty of people would rather stick to naturally flavored and sweetened ones. So we pointed those out. So we're talking about protein per calorie, we're talking about the form of whey protein used, the additives, the extra ingredients, and how natural and artificial it is. Finally, the presence of soy is one that's important to a lot of folks. Again, soy lecithin is pretty common in a lot of protein powders because it helps with mixability. But there are a minority of folks who are concerned that soy lecithin is going to somehow affect their estrogen levels. It won't. I encourage you to look at a 20-minute long video that I did on this channel a while back analyzing this claim. But nonetheless, the conclusion I'm trying to reach here is that the right protein powder for you depends entirely on your own preferences, be it natural, be it artificial, be it flavor, be it protein per calorie, and so on. So find out what you want from a protein powder, and then you're gonna find what you need on this list. So that's it for our video. I'm glad you watched. If you wanna, again, see the full written version of this video, you can just Google it, go Barban best whey protein powders, and it'll pop right up. And otherwise, stick around, I hope to see you for the next video.